Hey there, everybody. Welcome. Welcome back if you've been here before. Thanks for clicking on the video. I hope if you enjoy it, you subscribe and like and all the fun things. And, let me know what you thought. We are going to talk about 90 Day Fiancé before the 90 days, Season 6, Episode 15, Every Time We Say Goodbye. Now, I think we only have one more regular episode left, and then the tell-all. So this is a lot of like filler, kind of, everybody saying bye, that kind of thing. I'm gonna go ahead and start with Gino and Jasmine. Gino is telling us his trip really went down the drain. We definitely all saw that. He thought it was going to be amazing. He was wrong. He's on his way back to the apartment alone because, Jasmine broke up with him. And he's just heartbroken because she's the love of his life. And, he's also mad because he's tried really hard to make her happy. And it's just not working out for him. And he's so tired of her losing her temper. And, like, in the same way she just did. And he knows that she'll probably keep doing it. And he doesn't want that. So he's going to go ahead and pack his things and go. But 20 minutes later, Jasmine busts in the place. She wants to know if they can talk one last time. And I'm pretty sure she just realized that she can't afford her lifestyle. But they go out on the balcony and the cameras are like inside filming out. But we can hear them. And she's telling him, she doesn't know what to do. She's crying. She just doesn't know how to make it work. But she wants to. And, she loves him. She knows that she isn't perfect. And he hugs her and he says he knows. She's just sobbing and telling him how she just has so much pain and she gets so angry. And that just makes her not think properly. And she doesn't want him to stop loving her. She says that she's broken and she just can't live without him. And then she tells us that they have these big arguments and she feels like she ruins it because of all the baggage she brings. So at the time, she felt the best thing to do was to let him go back to America and just forget she ever existed. But, she says, how much you love someone when you imagine your life without them. And when he walked away, she just got like physically sick. And, she can't be without him. And then she asked him if he's mad at her. And, he says he isn't mad. And then she kind of cuts him off and she's like, for the first time ever, that, his family is important. And she gets it. And she has to earn her place as the most important person in his life. And she's going to earn it because, she wants to be his wife and she doesn't want to lose him. Is anybody buying this crap, or am I just like sick of hearing it on repeat? He tells her he doesn't want her to be angry and blowing up at him. And he says it's not easy for him to handle that. And, they've known each other for 2.5 years. And how are they going to overcome that? He doesn't think they can. And he tells us that it breaks his heart to see her cry. And he really does want to save the relationship. But after the talk in the park, she just didn't seem willing to work things out. She tells him she needs to get him something. She leaves. She comes back. She tells him to stand up. She gets on her knees. And she's like, since I met you, I craved your smell and your hugs and your kisses. And she knows that she's so messed up and crazy. But she promises she's going to change. And then she pulls out the engagement ring that he originally gave her and says she's sorry for being a bitch, basically. And wanting him to upgrade the ring because for her it's priceless. No amount of money in the world could buy it because, it came from the love of her life. So can she be his fiancé again? And will he marry her? And I'm like, he's not going to say, you lying ass, I thought you lost this. You just had it readily available this whole time for when I was finally going to leave you. She was saving it for the opportune moment. He pauses for a while. He says a couple times. And of course he will. We all knew he would. She's so happy. They hug, they kiss. He says that they have so many big problems, and he honestly thought he was done. But her getting on one knee with the ring that she said she lost shows him the commitment they made still matters, just as much to her as to him. And now he has hope. He's like, those are the most beautiful words anyone has said to me. But, she cancels him out with the most evil words anyone has said to him, And she's gonna change, she promises, and he just needs to give her a chance. She even claims she'll calm down. He claims to believe her. She says that she was scared he would reject her, and if she did, if he rejected her, she deserves it. And she's so sorry, and she tells him, he's the love of her life. And she'll choose him in 100 lives. And then he just repeats her again, I'll choose you in 100 lives. How he does with the insults. And they have some wine and cheers to fixing their problems. Actually, they have about a bottle of wine. And, I think he needs to spend that money on therapy. She says when she was a girl, she thought of love as a fairy tale, and they aren't. Gino and Jasmine aren't a fairy tale. They're a bad example to follow if you want a healthy relationship. At least she's self-aware. She says she doesn't want to be his sugar baby. She wants to be his wife and partner. But if he wants to be a sugar daddy still, that's fine. Did she just admit that she is a sugar baby after she spent all these seasons talking crap about them? When we know he met her on a sugar baby website. But I'm pretty sure she just admitted it. And, now she's going to wear her engagement ring proudly to symbolize all the struggles they've been through, and they're still here. They end that part with her offering him a massage, and luckily we don't have to see that. Next time we see them, Gino's all packed up. Jasmine is like, yeah, we've been through a lot the last 24 hours. They had the worst fight they ever had. But she's grateful at the end of the day that they could work through this because, now they're not saying goodbye permanently. He gets his things. They were actually in the closet. They weren't on the floor. And what do you know? He even left Jasmine a tip on the nightstand. And she's like, thank you for the 1,000 you sent me this morning. And he's like, yeah, use it for your rent. She tells us that they came to an agreement on the apartment. They're going to find a cheaper place, but they're going to find a place that has a 6-month lease. That way she feels some stability. What do you know? A compromise. Maybe if you just would have chatted with him a little more, you could have had that a long time ago. She does say that she realizes it wasn't fair for her to try to make him pay for that apartment, and she's grateful that he's willing to invest to make her more comfortable. The future is uncertain for her, but she feels stronger that he's proving he has her back. So, he's going to help her out. That's good. She needs a place to live. I never thought he shouldn't pay it, but $3,000 a month? Yikes. So she's crying in the car. He tells her not to worry, that, she's going to be in the U.S. before she knows it. He says the visa process is taking forever and it's stressful and the distance is affecting them. So he hopes that it hurries up. And then, in complete opposite of what he said earlier, this is the most successful trip he's had with her. They overcame a lot. He feels they have a stronger connection now more than ever. They're saying goodbye. He's choking back the tears, and he says he knows it sucks, but they're almost there. She's going to try to be patient, and, she's always going to be waiting for him. She says that she thinks sometimes life is unfair because they want to be together so bad, and she just wishes immigration could see what they're going through because then they would understand. Like, does she realize that the pandemic and all that made everything shut down for a year? So they're backlogged at least a year with just as many couples just like you suffering. That's the name of the game, lady. Then they have Gino take off his hat for security, and we got a peek of that. It was pretty funny. And Jasmine leaves us with she's going to put faith in his words that he'll do like what he has to for them to be together because they can't continue like this, and neither can I. I wonder if they're going to be on the next season of 90 Day Fiancé. I think there's a possibility she's in studio for the reunion. We'll definitely talk about it when it happens. And yeah, that was enough of them for this season. Yikes. Next up, I want to talk about Riley and Violet. We see them, they're all dressed up, walking along in the rain. He's telling her how beautiful her city is, you know, even in the rain. And he's like, "Are you sad I'm leaving?" And she's like, like she don't know. She tells us that after the bus tour that she was angry and frustrated. She didn't feel respected. But, you know, in the end, he didn't hire the investigator. And she doesn't know what's right and wrong. And she's been thinking a lot. And she feels that she doesn't know how to resolve this. But he's leaving tomorrow, and she does want to spend time with him. They sit there at a table at some place to get drinks or ice cream, and they stare at each other in silence until he tells her she looks beautiful. She thanks him. They order the drinks and ice cream, and she asks him why he looks sad. Well, he's sad because he's leaving, and he doesn't want to. He, you know, for the most part enjoyed himself. Maybe it was that day he rode the motorcycle with the tour guide was when he enjoyed himself. He tells her that he feels really bad and he wants to apologize about the PI. He said he had a lot of questions he wanted answers to when he came here, but then he realized that them being able to communicate properly is what matters most. So I guess at least that worked out for him. He asked her, you know, if she enjoyed his time there and him visiting her. She tells him that she doesn't know how she feels. They have a lot of differences, language, culture, you know, and he makes her hurt and feel sad. But, you know, he apologized to her, and she can see he's sincere. So, you know, she thinks they could try and see. He says, yeah, they have a 12-year history, and, you know, 2-year history. And you just can't walk away from that without trying. She's like, yeah, maybe after 100 years, you know, I think she means it'll work out. Or, you know, they'll figure it out. They laugh, and he's like, you know, we owe it to each other. It's like he's, like, really trying for reassurance here, and she's just not giving it. And then he flips her the bird. She does it back double. He tells us that he feels like they are moving in the right direction, and he just believes it's fixable. She tells him that he changes his personality a little, and if he doesn't lose control of his temper, then he could work for her, but they need more time. And then she's like, do you want help packing or with your luggage and stuff before he leaves? And he does. He says that would be nice, and they could spend more time together. And he asks her if it's a date tomorrow morning, and she says it is, and he's happy. He says that after yesterday, she had all the right in the world to never speak to him again, but he can tell that she still cares about him. And they just both have a hard time expressing themselves. And, you know, he has a little time before leaving, and he wants to solidify the relationship. So he has something important to tell her tomorrow. I already knew he was going to tell her he loves her because up until now he refused. That's why he does the flip off thing. So later we see him, he's packing. Violet's on her way to help him. She has some sort of family obligation later, so she's not taking him to the airport. And this is their last few hours together. Violet shows up. He tells her how cute she is, and she asks if he needs help packing. And I love how every time he's like, "You're beautiful, gorgeous, cute." She's like, "Yeah, okay, let's get down to business." She's never like, that one time he was in traditional clothes, she was smitten. But other than that, she never says anything nice back. She tells him, like, "Wow, you have a lot of stuff." And he's asking, how she feels about him leaving. And she's like, well, before she just wanted to meet him, and now they've met in person. And she feels sad. And he's sad too. And he just wants to make sure they're going to keep working on things. And she says, yeah, we'll stay in touch. Okay, like he'll get a Christmas card or something. And he's like, yeah, no problem. He tells us that she seems like she has her walls up, but he doesn't want to get back to America and think, what if? So he tells her he's leaving, and it's not easy for him to get back to Vietnam, so they should talk. And he asks if she knows how he feels about her. And she's like, tell me. And he's like, I really, really care about you. And he hopes that she can see that it's deeper than caring. And he asks if she's listening to what he's saying. She's like, well, what are you saying? He says that Violet knows he doesn't say the L word to anyone because he feels like if he says it, he's going to lose them. He tells her, he just told her something he never says, and that he just said it without saying, I. And I think he was trying to get her to say it first, so then he could say it. But he was like, I. And she's like, no, don't say that. This woman is a savage. Oh my gosh. And he asks why, and she says they need more time. She says that when Riley said that, like, they're just words, and she has a list of things he needs to change, such as how to respect a woman by his side. He promised her that he would change and be better, and she hopes he will, become that man. But I think until then, there's no I love you talk. They walk out to the cab. He's like, this is it. I'm leaving. He does the lip hang, like, puppy lip. And she tells him to have a good trip. And, let her know when he arrives. He kisses her forehead and he, like, pecks her on the lips, which is the most affection I've ever seen between these two. They not once held hands, nothing. And, he feels confused because they seem on the same page last night, but she isn't hugging or kissing him goodbye. And I thought that was weird too, because last night she's like, yeah, it's a date, and she was flirty. And then she showed up there, and I think she was just more hurt that he was leaving. Because when she showed up there, it was like, okay, let's get this done. Bye. We'll be in touch. call my publicist or whoever makes my appointments. My assistant. That's the word. So it took a lot out of him to form the riddle to say to her, to get her to say I love you, and for him to say it, and he feels like it was in vain. But if she isn't ready to receive the word, then that's okay. But this might just be the last time that they see each other in person. They ask him how he's feeling in the car, and he just says he's a little sad. Whatever happens next is up to her. She has all the cards. But if she doesn't put up the effort to figure it out, that's on her. He's going to move on. His goal of the trip was to get to know her and build a stronger connection. And he didn't get to know her or understand her. And he just thinks he needs to figure out if he wants to fight for this anymore. Now, I think these two should just not be together and check up on each other once in a while. But when I saw the preview for next week, and I try not to talk about it too much because they always trick us with how they edit the previews. But he said she's pregnant by him. They didn't so much as look at each other nicely. How could she be pregnant by him? What did we miss? I had to get every excruciating detail of Gino and Jasmine. but we got not one indication that they even sat next to each other on a bed. They didn't like hold hands. She didn't even hug him goodbye, but she's pregnant? Oh my gosh. And like I said, they probably edited it weird. I don't know what the deal is, but let me know what you guys thought about that. All right, next up, let's go ahead and talk about Statler and Dempsey. They're up and ready to explore the castle. There's a huge table in the dining room. They play sword fight. They, check out a wooden toilet. They're just running around being silly. But today they're headed out the castle. It's Dempsey's birthday, and Statler wants to make it as memorable as possible. So, oh yeah, she also got to check off castle sex off her bucket list, so I'm glad for that. But now they're just gonna go get some sightseeing in. Statler is telling her how magical everything has been. I mean, they got to stay in a castle. She's like, remember I did this for you, right? It'd be like that if I lived here, right? And Dempsey, gives her credit, tells her all the magical stuff was all her. She says that, she tells us that she was having doubts about Statler after she met her friends, but that the time that she's spent with her is the happiest she's been in a relationship. And if anything goes wrong at this point, she will be devastated. And the idea of her moving in with her scares her, but she is warming up to the idea. So all that, sucking up is working. And manipulation. Back in the car, Statler is telling her how she has the most beautiful eyes, like besides hers, of course. And if they had eye babies, they would just be insane. Like, what does that even mean? And she wants their eyes to be able to have sex and have babies for some reason. And that is just the weirdest thing I've ever heard anybody say. Dempsey's like, well, I would carry a baby, and that she would like to be pregnant, and she could be a full-time mom. And Statler's like, seriously? Dang. Dempsey says she thinks that they would be good parents, and she's like, you do? Like, no, Dempsey would be a good parent. Statler says what I was thinking, that she wouldn't be that great, but Dempsey would. Statler tells her that she doesn't know that she wants kids, and Dempsey seems a little confused, but says, yeah. I'm just saying that from my observation, everything needs to be the way Statler wants, and Dempsey, just didn't get that memo. And then she tells us that her and Statler had conversations, and she told her that she was open to kids. So she's confused that, now she's changed her tune. She says that since she planned this amazing trip and they're having fun, she's not going to bring the mood down right now. And, they're just kind of walking in the streets at this point, and they hear bagpipes, and Statler asked the guy to play Happy Birthday, and I did think that was sweet. She tells us that Statler makes her feel special, but they need to talk about this having kids things because they need to be on the same page about that before they get more serious. So later, they're back at the castle. They're having their last breakfast. Statler says that their time there has been amazing, but she's sad because she's leaving after this trip. So it's hard to enjoy the moment because she knows it's going to end. And they even have someone who takes their breakfast order, and they even have vegan breakfast for Dempsey. So I thought that was cool. Dempsey tells us the last 2 days have been so nice, and she's starting to imagine what life could be like together. Excuse me. She's worried about the conversation that they had about children, and now she wants to know her feelings, because if they want different things, it's just probably going to be a waste of time to stay together. Dempsey tells her, her time is coming to an end, and that's making her emotional, and she wants to talk about the future. She says, if they got married one day and she wanted to have kids, they obviously both need to make that decision. And Statler's like, why do you want kids? And Dempsey's like, I just think I'd be a really good mom. and kids make the world better, and you can just learn so much from them. She says to Statler, so you don't want kids. She doesn't know. It just seems like a lot of work and money. Plus, I think Statler is way too selfish to ever be a mother. I'm just saying. No thanks. Dempsey tells her that it would be worth it. You know, just look at her and her dad's relationship. And her grandparents and her dad have a great relationship. And it was beautiful to watch and be a part of. And she just wants a mini her running around. Statler asks if she would adopt, which I think is a trick question, because if an adoptee asks you that, what are you supposed to say? But Dempsey says that she would. She would have one of each, which I assume means one adopted, one natural. And Statler says she doesn't know if she could adopt because she's an adoptee and she knows the struggles they face. And she doesn't know if she has the mental or emotional willpower. Selfish. And she doesn't feel like she has a maternal bone inside her body. Which, I mean, at least she's self-aware. No one's saying she has to have a kid. I just think it's messed up. She said she was open to it and then had someone fall in love with her when she could have said, no, I don't want children. And this wouldn't have had to happen. She says, she wouldn't adopt, because it was hard for her. And I'm like, as opposed to someone not being adopted, I understand you were adopted and I don't know what that's like. But you were adopted basically after you were born. And there's so many kids who never get adopted. Don't you think that's a little worse? I guess it depends who you get adopted out to. But she doesn't think a child would be better off getting adopted by them than nobody adopting them. I don't understand. She tells us people go into adoption thinking it's all hunky-dory and the kid will be grateful and it'll be easy. And that isn't the case. And I think that's all parent-child relationships. She says that she was taken away from her mom the second she was born, so she always felt that missing part of her. And she still has a lot of adoptee trauma she hasn't worked through. It's well, maybe you should put that on the to-do list besides castle sex. That might help you out a little more. She does tell Dempsey that it's triggering to have this conversation. And Dempsey's well, I'm going to have a child at some point, even if that's alone. And Statler says, if she wants kids badly and has to have kids, it's just not going to work between them. She really doesn't want kids. And I'm glad she knows, that she shouldn't have kids. Dempsey says, cool, so good talk. I'm going to go get ready now. Statler does say that they have talked about how she might want kids in the future. And now Dempsey really does. So I think when they talked before, it was a maybe from both of them. But Statler knew it was a no from her and she was hoping Dempsey was just saying maybe. But she wasn't. Statler says it's a lot of responsibility. And, she doesn't have the same experience Dempsey has where the family's really close. And she was just hoping she'll be enough for her. And now she's terrified she isn't. She just wants only her and, both of them in the trailer where she can be up her butt 24/7, so needy. She needs help and therapy. She just said she hasn't worked through it. The producer asked Dempsey why she walked away, and she's because that's not the conversation we had before. It was something that, she hadn't made her mind up about yet, and she would consider it. They ask her if it's a make it or break it for her. Make it or break it for her. She says it is. And it seems to be that way for Statler too. So I guess we'll find out next episode how this concludes. I really hope they go their separate ways. Especially Dempsey should be able to have children if she wants. And Statler should be able to not have children if she wants. And if that's not going to work out, better that they find that out now. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and talk about a happy couple, David and Sheila. It's their last day in paradise. David is going to miss it. He's sad to go. And she's yeah, but we had fun. She tells us that she's happy he proposed last night, and he tells us he's happy that she's started to sign more rather than just rely on texting. And she gets better every day, especially with her finger spelling. She tells him, like, this morning was heaven for him, and he says, yeah, he loved the bed and all the things that they did in it. Then he sign languages all the positions and the explosions that they had. And I just don't think I'm ever going to get used to that. But, you know, she tells us they're headed back home to see her son and her dad. And she feels nervous to tell him that he proposed. Like before, when they talked about it, her son was hesitant. And if he tells her again he doesn't want to go to the U.S., she's going to be heartbroken because she loves David. But, you know, she can't leave her son. So they arrive to meet the son and the dad, and the four of them are sitting there. And she tells him she has news that they're engaged, and the boy stops drinking his soda mid-drink. The dad says that that's good. The son says that he's happy. The dad is like, well, if you go to America, what about John Rell? And she asks him how he feels and if he wants to go. He says that he's going to go with her and that he's excited because they have bigger houses in America. He tells us that he was nervous when he first met David, and now he can see that he really loves his mom and that he's a happy guy despite being mute. And he might like it in America and make lots of friends, and there's good food. And Sheila asks John Rell if he has any questions, and he's just asking if they're going to have 5 children. She says that they don't know, and David says yes. And Sheila's just so happy. She knows that they have a lot to work out, but she can't wait to marry him and complete their family. Next time we see them, they're packing, you know, David so he can head home. And she's sad. She's going to miss him. And of course, like, he's going to miss her too. And she's not ready for him to leave. She's worried about their future. She doesn't know when she'll see him again. And he tells us that it's really hard to leave her, especially after everything she's been through. He tells her in the cab that he's going to be back there. And she tells him that she'll be waiting. And he's going to apply for the visa. And she says yes, and then they'll be married. He says he's trying to stay positive for her, but he's feeling overwhelmed. He knows that there's a lot to be paid for, like an immigration lawyer. I'm like, you don't need an immigration lawyer. Just ask Gino. He also needs a visa, a house, plane tickets, a wedding. And he doesn't know how long it'll be before he can pay for all those things. And he doesn't really know how the K-1 process works. But he plans to go back there next year to see her. And he hopes that she can just wait for him to get all of this sorted out. Like, no matter how long that's going to take. They get to the airport and David brings her closer and he starts crying. She tells him to be safe. You know, he says he will. He just starts bawling and you could actually hear him cry. She hugs him. You know, he says he's sorry. And he tells her he has to go. And they leave each other and they're both crying. She tells us that her heart is worse than broken because before she felt different, she hadn't experienced being with him. And now her love for him became different. And now he's gone and she's going to miss him a lot. He kind of sees her looking in the window and he goes over there. She signs to him to please come back to her and he says that he will. He tells her that he loves her. He walks away. He is sad. He doesn't really want to go back to life without her. But he's going to do all he can to be with her. He loves her and he will forever. And I expected them to be very sad. It's really hard to leave somebody you love. That's for sure. Hopefully that he can figure it out. And he can get them over here. I think they deserve to come over and have a better life. And I say that because she genuinely loves him and he genuinely loves her. And I think that's the only couple on this series right now that actually love each other. So I'm rooting for them. Next up, Christian and Cleo. They're walking down the street. He's talking about he hasn't had a proper English breakfast. And she's like, well, in Italy, they have sweet breakfast. And, speaking of sweet, they see a donut shop. Before I get into that, what is a proper English breakfast? Is it like eggs and sausages? Like big, sausages? Not like the little links that we have here. I'll have to Google it. English breakfast, unless someone wants to tell me. So, the donuts, they're just overloaded with candy and frosting, and they have like candy bars on top, and they look all right. That's something I would have ate before surgery. I remember there's this movie called Land of the Lost with Will Ferrell, and he's like, it's a donut stuffed with M&Ms. That way, when you're done with the donut, you don't have to eat M&Ms. And the store I worked at used to sell donuts with M&Ms on top, and I thought it was so funny, and I would eat them, but now they would make me sick. So, enough about me. While they check out with the donuts, Cleo tells us that they only have a couple days left together, and she's really conflicted because on one hand she feels that they have a deep connection and are right for each other, but after Thanksgiving things have been tense. She feels that they still have issues to resolve, and some of the things he said about his interactions with other women were red flags to her, and she's worried about faithfulness. Don't ignore red flags. It never works out. She's thinking that he gets easily bored or distracted, and that might unconsciously lead him to seek that thrill. And, even if he doesn't have bad intentions, he's putting himself in a situation where, he's more likely to cheat. And being in a long-distance relationship, she's not trying to have those worries. They're sitting there, they're chowing down the donuts, and she says, now that their trip is coming to an end, she wants to make sure that she's not going to be hurt, so she wants to know where they stand as far as being exclusive. And I thought they were exclusive because he's called her his girlfriend since before he went there. And he's like, what do you mean? He's going to go start seeing someone else? He tells her that he wants to stay exclusive, so they already were. And he doesn't want to be with anyone else. She tells him some of the things that they have talked about have brought into question some of her anxieties and insecurities. For example, she's fine with him branching out, making friends, and hanging out with his existing female friends, but it's not going to make her happy for him to approach girls who appear to be single. He says there's nothing in the way that he approaches women at the bar that would make him think he's hitting on them. Make them think he's hitting on them. So he feels he has nothing to be guilty about. I still stand by if I'm sitting at a bar and some man's talking to me and do you want a drink? I'm pretty sure he wants to bring me home or something. He needs something from me, I'm sure. I never think, oh, this man wants to be my friend. I don't think any of us are wired that way. Women to not think that. He tells us that he knows that she doesn't want him doing that, but hearing her say that it worries her that he won't be faithful is unsettling for him. I don't understand that either. Why doesn't he get it? This has been a problem in most of his relationships. But he doesn't feeling held down or that he needs to change. I also think he's just being defiant at this point. You don't like it. You're telling me I can't do what I want. So guess what? I'm going to do it harder and shove it in your face until you give up. That's the vibe I'm getting. He's a social butterfly. And there isn't anything that he's done on this trip to give her a reason to not trust him. Really? Okay. Not mentioning your intimacy. Okay. She says it's something that they'll have to work on because it just doesn't make her comfortable that a single girl sitting alone, he's approaching her, offering her drinks. And he's like, but he's with her. He's like, I'm with you. And then she starts to cry. And he tells her it's okay. And when he's with her, he's with her. If he wanted to be going on dates and stuff, he wouldn't be with her. She tells us it's hard to fully trust him, and she doesn't want to change who he is. But she feels like it should come natural to him to understand that when you're in a relationship, that's not how you behave. When it comes to relationships, she sometimes can ignore things that aren't ideal out of fear of being overly critical and losing him. And she thinks that that's going to happen here. I think she needs to look out for herself. Like, obviously, you guys have different values and lifestyles and wants and needs. And neither of you, well, I don't know about Cleo, but Christian is not trying to compromise. He thinks he's perfect. He does everything right. He's so innocent. Even though we saw him being flirty with the girl at the bar, asking for her social media. And, you know, I've heard, like, some people say here and there that, like, Americans do that. We would invite people to our house for Thanksgiving that we don't know. Which I guess, like, I have a cousin who's in AA. She's brought people from, like, her AA meetings to the house, but she's asked us permission. My brother played college football. He had half his football, well, at least 6 guys come to Thanksgiving because, you know, they were all from out of town, Florida, Chicago, wherever, and they needed a place to go. But I think you always need, or usually, like, you know someone at the Thanksgiving. You don't just, hey, you're at the store. Oh, you don't have nowhere to go? Come on over to my whole family's house. I don't think that happens. Let me know what you guys think about your Thanksgiving, because that was an afterthought I had. I was like, well, yeah, I've had strangers that I personally didn't know at Thanksgiving, but they knew somebody there. It wasn't such a random thing. All right, everybody. It's deep breaths time. Whew. Because we're on our last couple, and you know who they are. Amanda and Razvan. Today is the last day they're in Croatia, so he had planned a beach day with them and his family. She, like, still hasn't removed her lips from his body. And he tells her, you know, it's working because he's getting excited. He does say that things got tense at the family's house, but they're in a much better place today. And he tells us that they did the thing like 4 times last night. She was very forward. She grabbed him and was like, I need you this second. So he obliged. Like, she's really using sex to manipulate him again. She probably realized that the parents were describing her when they talked about his ex, and she was trying to distract him. He says that they put all of their anger and the angry emotions into the sex, and it was like a nice release. And, you know, angry sex can be all right. But I've only had that in toxic relationships. So there's that too. But thank Jesus that the waiter came over and got their order so we could stop watching them suck face. And, you know, he tells us he can't say he's 100% back in the relationship, but he's happy that she's trying. And he wants to live in the present and see how things are. His family shows up. You know, the family seems happy. Amanda looks like, oh, you guys ruined my good time. I have to fake being nice again. They order some food, some pizza. She's got to be, like, different. She wants French fries. It's probably the only thing she could eat on the menu. And she's like, tell your mom I had a nice time last night, and she's an amazing cook. Like, sucking up again. And he tells his mom that she's glad he met her and that she's a great cook. The mom's like, yeah, I'm happy. I like her too. And then Razvan leaves. He goes to put on his swimsuit. And all of a sudden, the brother speaks perfect English. I didn't know he could speak English. And that means he heard everything Amanda was saying at the table at dinner. Like, did she know he speaks English? because she was mumbling a whole lot behind her water glass. So I didn't know that, and that cracked me up. He asked her what she thinks of Razvan, and she thinks he's a good guy with a pure heart, and that's just why she loves him. And she was so worried about her kids liking him, but they get along well. Like, she didn't even tell her kids this was her boyfriend. He saw them running around on video chat, and if they do like him, why does she not want to tell them about him? Like, she's so full of crap. Razvan comes out in his swim trunks, and I'm like, dang. Like, no wonder he gets all them ladies on TikTok. Like, perfection, I guess. You know, he had a nice body. I'm like, why did they not go swimming more? He has his mom, like, put a covering on his head, like, so he doesn't get sunburned because he's bald, and I thought that was cute, too. He tells us that he does love Amanda, but the last few days have been confusing. Like, yeah, because that's what narcissists do. They love bomb you, they abuse you, break you down, build you back up until they're the only person who can build you back up, and you're completely dependent on them. They push everybody else out of your life. It's not a good time, and she gives me such, like, narcissistic trait having vibes. I can't say she's full on, you know, because I just see what I see, but it's similar behavior. So he's having a hard time knowing what to do. His mom's opinion, like, really matters to him, and he wants to see what she thinks about Amanda. He takes her for a walk, and picky ass Amanda is over here picking the toppings off the pizza with, like, surgical precision. And she looks, and she's like, when he asks his mom to talk, it makes her anxious because she doesn't know what they'll be talking about. And she hopes he doesn't bring up the fights because she doesn't want them to get the wrong impression or a bad view of their relationship. It's like, well, you don't want her to know the truth. Narcissistic people usually want to hide the truth and control the narrative, and they don't want to know people when their mask slips off and they're giant monsters. Like, to tell someone that they're not half the man as your dead husband is brutal. And then to spend 4 days with your lips attached to their entire body because you don't want to lose them because you're desperate, because you need to be in control, because if anyone's leaving anyone, it's you. You make me sick. She makes me sick. I should have brought out my sage for this one. So Razvan and his mom go have a seat. They're by the ocean. They're on some rocks. I want to go sit there. And she asks him what he thinks about their relationship. He lies to his mother, and he says she's gentle and kind. But it's not easy because she's undecided one day and she's really sweet to him, and the next minute she's really mean. She's very cold and distant, and then she feels sorry, and she tries to sabotage the relationship. And, you know, she says it's because of her trauma. The mom says, like, yeah, from what he's telling her, he's suffered a lot, and he has. But, you know, he understands that she was with Jason for 11 years, and now she's afraid. But he thinks it'll pass. Mom is like, she didn't want this for him. She didn't know she was kind of a changing woman, which I think was like the mood swings. And she's sad and upset because of loss, you know. And that's normal, but Amanda can try to think of Razvan too. And she's not sure that her behavior is because of the death of her husband, or that's just how she is. And I'm pretty sure that's just how she is. So she tells him he has another relationship, or actually a marriage. You know, he's had one, and it went bad because he was hoping things would change that time too. She tells her boy not to repeat the same mistake, which is true. Like I've said before, if you don't heal after a bad marriage, toxic relationship, a breakup, you're just going to keep repeating that pattern until you figure it out. So later we see them. It's nighttime Amanda. All of a sudden she's showing skin. And I honestly thought she should have wore that shirt with him, like the shirt he had when they were leaving, they would have matched. But she's showing skin. She's trying all the tricks. Like, she almost seemed a little tipsy to me, but what do I know? And he's like, are you excited for snooker? And apparently that's what they call pool there. He is like being silly again. He's pretending to hail a cab in New York. And he just seems like a really funny, fun guy. Like, I haven't found anything that's like bothered me. And that's like really rare for this show. And I feel so bad for him that he's like stuck with her. It's like, you deserve better. I remember I used to say, like with Michael and Angela, like, I'll marry Michael. He can come on over. Like, he doesn't deserve this. That's enough. Anyway, Amanda says that he's taking her on a date. It's their last night in Croatia, and she just feels like they have a lot to celebrate because they're doing much better. They made it through meeting his family. And he's being so sweet and loving, but she's insecure about his feelings because she's worried about what he said to his mom. After their walk, the vibe shifted, and she felt like it wasn't good. They arrive at the pool hall, and she says it looks strange. And, like, probably because you are, like, used to pool and dive bars. Like, actual pool halls look like that. They start playing pool. Razvan's talking up a big game. Then he goes to break, and one ball maybe flies off. So she just has him re-rack them. And she's definitely better at him than pool. And she does a much better job at breaking them than he did. Then he asked her if she liked the beach, and she did. And she had fun with his family, but, you know, the vibe was different before and after he went to talk to his mom. He's like, well, yeah. She asked what they talked about. He talked about their relationship and how things are going and the fights. She's like, you told your mom about our fights? She looks like she's trying to stop the Ice Queen from making an appearance. He said he did to get some advice about things and to get a handle on some things between them. She's trying not to freak out. And then he says he just wanted to hear his mom's advice. So she asked what he said. He says he doesn't know. Her little cutesy voice is gone now, and she's like, you don't know. She says from her experience being in a relationship, when you involve other people in your relationship for advice or counsel and involve them too much, it becomes a problem. Which is true. You know, you shouldn't involve your family and friends in every little problem you have, but if you really need advice, it's okay. And for someone to not want you to tell people about their behavior because it makes them look bad is a huge red flag. Because she didn't have nothing to hide. It shouldn't have been a problem. If she didn't say those awful things to him, he wouldn't be so confused. So it's her fault. And he's been trapped with her in his house for 3 weeks. He's probably literally insane at this point, and he needs his mama to hug him and tell him what's reality. She just doesn't want anyone to see her for what she is. He says he knows that, but he doesn't involve his mom that much. And she's like, whatever, you're being annoying. It's your turn. And he's like, this is why I was talking to her, because sometimes you just change. And her moods just change. And as soon as he's pointing out her crap, she doesn't want to fight. It's supposed to be a nice night. Well, damn, Amanda. Didn't you want the transcript of the talk with his mother? He says he doesn't want to have a fight, but she feels like he does. He tells us that things have been better between them, but he still has doubts, and this is exactly why. He feels like she's trying to make more fights between them, and they only have a few days before she leaves, and he's scared that she won't be able to change. Like, yeah, she won't. Oh my gosh. Next time we see them, he's doing a TikTok live or something. And Amanda's sitting there messing with her hair, just like staring at him doing this live as he's saying hello to ladies. And then she walks away and she goes and sits on the bed. She says they got back from Croatia yesterday and things have been tense. And it's upsetting to feel like there hasn't been much progress in their relationship. And they have 2 days left together. She wants solid answers. She wants a complete outline of their future, a bulleted pamphlet if he has one, something. And I'm like, okay, now you want an outline of your future? He wanted to come and visit you like right when you went home. You said no. He's trying to figure out when you can tell your kids so he can come visit you. You said no. So why are we ignoring that? Like, you're not bringing that up at all. So he's done with the live. He goes to the bed. He asks her if she's upset that he went live. You know, he just wanted to say hi. She says she's not mad, but then she says, you know, I don't have many days left. We had a good time in Croatia and things have been so good. Like, will we be engaged when she leaves? He's like, you want to be engaged. She says she'd feel better and more secure if he's willing to commit more. And, you know, engagement was something they discussed before she came. And, you know, since she's been there, they've had so many fights, but she still wants to be engaged to him and feel he's committed despite the fights that they've had. And she's scared that when she leaves, he'll say, okay, well, our relationship isn't the best, so we should part ways. Well, guess what, lady? A ring won't stop that. Like, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. You know, you're afraid he's going to come out of the fog and the love spell you got him under for 5 minutes and realize who you really are. Too bad. Don't be a terrible person. He tells her that he doesn't feel like he needs to do that. They fight 70% of the time. And she's like, well, from the fights we've had, you know, she's tried to explain feelings from Jason, and finally ending that part of her life was difficult for her. He's like, all the time is difficult for you. 5 months were difficult for you. Talking through the phone was difficult for you. Again and again. Grocery shopping is difficult for you. Making coffee is difficult for you. And it's not about Jason. It's not about anything. He tells her after so many things happen that she thinks he just needs to forget it all. And all of that stuff is still on his soul and in his mind. He tells us that he is shocked that she's talking about getting engaged. How can you want to be engaged with someone you only fight with only because you want commitment? I'm glad he's smart and he can see through this so far. He says the biggest commitment is he didn't give up yet. And, you know, he's still here fighting. He tells her that he knows that she cares about him, but he feels like his feelings maybe stopped a long time ago. And he just tries to recreate them. And she just shuts him down. And they don't have a lot of time left. Even if the last couple days are perfect, it's not going to save everything. And she says it sounds like he doesn't even know if he wants to be with her. And he says, yeah, I don't know, which is good. I'm glad he's honest. I'm glad he's not letting her manipulate him. And it was satisfying to see him tell her no, they weren't getting engaged. You know, it made it worth it to watch all that crap before. Except for, like, her lips permanently attached to him. Ugh, makes me sick. Because I know it's for ill intention. So yeah, that was that. Like I said, hopefully he doesn't give in and propose. Hopefully they kind of end things. That would be nice, but we'll see. Let me know what you guys thought. Yeah. Also, let me know what you think about the reunion. Do you think we should continue on? I was planning on it, but I just want to know what the consensus is. I hope you guys have a good night. I am having one of those rough weeks, so this was really nice to get on here and talk to everybody. I broke my washing machine broke yesterday, so now I have to figure out how to get one and get someone to bring it here and get my old ones out. You know, single mom life. So there was that. And you know, my laundry piles up fast. And then today, for the second time, I ordered this deodorant and I got the wrong kind. And I emailed them to be like, okay, I thought I made a mistake the first time. I ordered them again, and it's even worse this time. Like, they sent me 6 instead of 3, and they were just all the wrong kind. So I email them, and they say, oh, we're out of the office till next week. Sorry for the inconvenience. Like, so now I gotta run around here stinking, I guess. So anyways, I'm hoping tomorrow's gonna be better. It will. Don't forget to take deep breaths and do something nice. I plan on doing a 24-karat gold mud mask that I got today in the mail from a subscription box of mine. So that'll be nice. I plan to relax, get some of that stress out of the way, and I'm probably going to watch The Other Way. So look forward to that video, and I will talk to you guys later. I hope you have a good night. Bye.